And what we notice is, I'm sorry. It's a Stanford TEDx. What we notice is that people get stuck. People really get stuck, and then they don't know what to do, and they don't seem to have any tools for getting unstuck. And designers get stuck all the time. I mean, I signed up to be a designer, which means I'm going to work on something that I've never done every day. And I get stuck and unstuck and stuck and unstuck all the time. But we also noticed as we went out and we talked to folks, not just our students, but people in mid-career and encore careers, that people have a bunch of beliefs which psychologists label dysfunctional beliefs, things they believe that are true that actually aren't true. And it holds them back. I'll give you 3. First one is, what's your passion? Tell me your passion, and then I'll tell you what you need to do. Now, if you actually have one of these things, these passions, you knew at 2 you wanted to be a doctor, or you knew at 7 you wanted to be a clown at Cirque du Soleil, and now you are one, that's awesome. But we're sort of research-based here at Stanford, so we went over to the Center for the Study of Adolescence, which, by the way, now goes up to 27, and met with Bill Damon, who's one of our colleagues. He's a fantastic guy. He studied this question, and it turns out less than 20% of the people have any one singular identifiable passion in their lives. So we hate a methodology which says, okay, come to the front of the line. You have a passion? Oh, you don't? Oh, I'm sorry. Go to the back when you have one. Come on back and we'll help you with that. It's terrible. 8 out of 10 people say, I have lots of things I'm interested in. So this is not an organizing principle for your search or your design. The second one is, well, you should know by now, right? Don't you know where you're going? If you don't know, you're late. Now, what are you late for exactly? I'm not quite sure. But people have, there's a meta-narrative in the culture. When I was growing up, 25, you were supposed to have, maybe have a relationship, maybe have gotten married, starting to get the family together. When I talk to my students, my millennial students, they'll say, oh, that's got to be like 30 or something, because they can't imagine anything past like 22. But 30 is a long way out. But we know that nowadays people are forming their lives much more fluidly. They are staying in a lot more dynamic motion between about 22 and 35. And so this notion that you're late is really kind of, it's not only it's like, well, you should have figured this out by now. Dave and I don't should on anybody. In the book or in the class, we don't believe in should. We just think, all right, you are wherever you are. Let's start from where you are. You're not late for anything. But the one we really don't like is, are you being the best possible version of you? I mean, because you're not settling, are you, for something that's less than the best? Because this is Stanford, obviously we all want to be the best. Well, this implies that 1, there's a singular best, 2, that it's a linear thing and life is anything but linear. And 3, there's this it kind of comes from this business notion. There's an old business saying, good is the enemy of better, better is the enemy of best. And you always want to do your best in business. But if there isn't one singular best, then our reframe is, the unattainable best is the enemy of all the available betters. Because there are many, many versions of you that you could play out, all of which would result in a well-designed life. So I'm going to give you 3 ideas from design thinking and or 5 ideas, excuse me. It says 5, doesn't it? Yeah, 5 ideas from design thinking. And the things that people have written back to us who've read the book or have taken the class and said, hey, these were the most useful, these were the most doable, they were the most helpful. And we're human-centered designers, so we want to be helpful. The first one is this notion of connecting the dots. The number one reason people take our class, and we read the book, is they say, I want my life to be meaningful. I want it to be purposeful. I want it to add up to something. So we looked in the positive psychology literature and in the design literature, and it turns out that there's who you are, there's what you believe, and there's what you do in the world. And if you can make a connection between these 3 things, if you can make that a coherent story, you will experience your life as meaningful. The increase in meaning making comes from connecting the dots. So we do 2 things. We ask people, write a work view. What's your theory of work? Not the job you want, but why do you work? What's it for? What's work in service of? Once you have that, 250 words, then this one's a little harder to get short. What's the meaning of life? What's the big picture? Why are you here? What is your faith or your view of the world? When you can connect your life view and your work view together in a coherent way, you start to experience your life as meaningful. That's the idea number 1. Idea number 2, people get stuck, and and you got to be careful because we can reframe almost anything, but there's a class of problems that people get stuck on that are really, really bad problems. We call them gravity problems. Essentially, there's something you cannot change. Now, not you, but I know you have a friend, and you've been having coffee with this friend for a while, and they're stuck. They don't like their boss. They don't like their partner. They don't like their job. There's something they don't like, but nothing's happening, right? Nothing's happening with them. If Dave were here, he'd say, look, you can't solve a problem you're not willing to have. You can't solve a problem you're not willing to have. So if you've got a gravity problem, and you're simply not willing to work on it, then it's just a circumstance in your life. And the only thing we know to do with gravity problems is to accept. In the design thinking chart, you start with empathy, then you redefine the problem, then you come up with lots of ideas, and you prototype and test things. But that only works if it's a problem you're willing to work on.